All right, and we are back. We're continuing our discussion about decimal fractions. Decimal fractions in terms of rounding and how to round decimals. So we're going to come back to same thing we did previously in the previous video, so you can go back and watch that and kind of. But we just want to understand this a little better, so we're going to dive in again to this to make sure that our understanding is there when we do this in class. So we want to round specific decimals. So today we're going to round 49 and 67 hundredths to the nearest tenth. To nearest tenth. Now, super important to remember what tenths, hundredths, and thousandths are. This is really crucial to us making sense of decimals. So if you don't understand that yet, I would go back and watch those videos because it's really important that we understand what those mean. So when we're rounding in the nearest tenth, there's a couple things that need to happen. First thing is we want to talk about the different ways that we can decompose 49 and 67 hundredths. When we talk about decomposition, it makes me think of zombies. I know that's a weird analogy, but when something decomposes, it starts to break apart. It breaks down. It falls apart. Okay. So when we decompose a number like 49 and 67 hundredths, we want to break it down so that it's easier to understand. So in this case, it's a 49. So we have 4 tens and 9 ones. We can just simply put it in as 4 tens and 9 ones. Now there's a lot of other ways we can break this down, but I'm just going to break each set down. And if we just look at it like this, as each of these are different numbers, this would make complete sense. So 49 and 67 hundredths. So that's one way to break it down, but there's more than one way, and you're probably thinking about that right now. So let's do a couple other ways. So we could call it just 49 ones if we wanted to. We could totally just call it 49 ones. So let's do that. So 49 ones and 6 tenths and 7 hundredths. We can also break it down as 496 tenths. Notice that the numbers are just moving over. There's a lot of ways we can break this down. And if you can see this, there's one more way we could do it. I mean, we could even add more to it, but I'm just going to stop right there. So let me just make this 6 a little nicer so you can see that. So that is 3 different ways to break this 49 and 67 hundredths down. Now we want to round to the nearest tenth. So here's how we would do that. When we're rounding to tenths, we want to think about what's going to make the most sense in terms of tenths. So we're talking about here, right? So for instance, what is it going to be in between? Well, in this case, we look at the first number that we see in the tenths place, which is the 6. So we are going to call that, I'm gonna use this one, 49 ones, right? And 6 tenths, okay? And so when we look at that, that number is 49.6. And it's between the other number that we can round up to. This is what we would round down to. What we could round up to would be just 1/10 more. And in that case, it would be 49 and 7 tenths. Okay, and the way that we would write that, we could say 49 ones plus 7 tenths. Okay, and that equals 49 and 7 tenths. So that is how we would write that. Now the big question is, well, what's the midpoint? And that's where a lot of us were having trouble when we did our sprints. And when we think about our sprints, is finding the midpoint of 2 numbers. I like to just add a 0. And that helps me picture it, because now I know that it's partway between 49 and 60 hundredths and partway between 49 and 70 hundredths. And the midpoint would be 65. So in this case, it would be 49 ones, 6 tenths, and 5/100ths. Now remember, hundredths, not hundreds, and this is why place value is so crucial, because we have to understand that. So now it's 49.65. Okay, and now we can take our number, and our number is this right here, right? This is our number, 67, and we're going to place it on this number line that we created. And the number line in this case is going to set it above 65. 67 is above 65, so it's going to be about right here, and I'm just going to write it in 49 and 67/100ths. And then the question is, if we are rounding it to the nearest tenth, is it going to go up? Circle it. Is it going to go up here, or is it going to go down here? Well, if it's above the midpoint here, it's going to go up. And in this case, because it's above the midpoint, it is this top answer. So if we erase all this, see the midpoint is right here. We are going to take this up to this one and here. So that is our answer. So round that number, 49 and 67/100ths, to the nearest tenth. If we round it, we're going to call it 49 and 7/10. So that is rounded to the nearest tenth. So I hope that kind of clarifies it. Using the number line is going to help us understand that better, and we're going to have to explain why that works and how that happens. So I hope that kind of answers your question, or helps you better understand rounding decimals. And we can do this to the nearest 10, we can do it to the ones place, we can do it to the hundredths, the thousandths. There's a lot of different ways we can round, and it really helps us with multiplication and all that kind of stuff.